Welcome to episode 134 of the Necronama.com. I am James Sabata, horror author, screenwriter, co-host of the podcast you're listening to right now. And I don't have a joke here, Don. I'm going to have to enter one later.
I thought I saw it. And I am Don Guillory, author, historian, educator, co-host of this podcast. And I enjoyed this film a lot more than I thought I was, because I don't think I've seen this in a long time.
It was really good. It held up very well. So let me introduce our guest, and then we can get into that, because otherwise I'll just start rambling. Brent Terhune is back. Dude,
welcome
you for coming back on the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. I was on the Creep episode and the Cabin in the Woods episode. It's good to be back for the Invisible Man.
Woohoo! We're excited to have you. And this is our big Halloween special. How exciting.
And if people are listening because I'm on this episode, go listen to the other ones, because I listen to this show when I'm not on it. So
we appreciate that.
I can't give my endorsement much more than I listen to the show.
And you actually know things when we ask you about it, so you're not just saying that.
And we didn't pay you.
Cha-ching. It just hit my Venmo, guys. Thank you very much.
We'll give you half of what we make. Good luck.
And also, you guys were just on my podcast, The Field Trip.
Yes, we were.
Where we talked about the Treehouse of Horror. You guys did that, I think, last year, every episode, but this was more of a brief 50-minute conversation. So if you want to check that out, that's on my podcast called The Field Trip.
And then check out the episodes that we're not even on either.
Yeah, that's right. Tell us about The Field Trip. I mean, obviously we know, but tell our listeners.
Yeah, it's a topic-based podcast. So some of my favorite episodes have been parody religions, like the Church of the Latter-day, I think it's Dudism. I'm not a pastor, but I'm an ordained minister, and the Church of Latter-day Dudes. Also the Flying Spaghetti Monster. I think that's probably the most prominent one we've heard. That, if you celebrate Ramadan, which is a real holiday for them. But then I've also done like the Charlie Brown Christmas special, the Halloween one, the Thanksgiving one, the Halloween franchise, the Friday the 13th franchise. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of all over topic wise, but it's stuff that I enjoy talking about. So hopefully if you don't like a certain topic, we'll have a good one the next week.
I love that. Now, I've listened to quite a few of them. I won't say I've listened to all of them, but I've always enjoyed it. And that's one of the things I like, because like if you do the same thing every week, and we kind of do the same thing every week, but at least it's, the films are pretty different a lot of the time. But I love podcasts where they cover totally different stuff, because it not only kind of breaks up the monotony, but it also teaches me about things I didn't even know existed. And then I can go do deep research like Wikipedia or Googling things. I like to ask Jeeves, but so yeah, I like that. I love when podcasts do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Toy Hall of Fame. There's a Toy Hall of Fame, and they induct toys every year. So that was another fun one that I did.
Wow.
That's amazing. I don't know about that one. I'm going to check that out.
Yeah, those are marathon episodes. Those are two-parter, because apparently there's a lot of toys in that Hall of Fame.
Well, that's a movie pitch right there. Somebody who had a less than desirable childhood, at least in his own mind, decides to break into the Toy Hall of Fame.
He wants to play pickup sticks. The lamest toy ever.
My mother burnt all my tiddlywinks. Yeah.
Just imagine him opening up the box of pet rocks on the outside of the door. Run!
He just gets to the Rubik's Cube and scrambles it and laughs.
I mean, it's a crossover. It's Night at the Toy Museum.
Okay.
And it's Toy Story and Night at the Museum.
I love it.
And then you realize that he's not stealing it out of greed. He's stealing it because it was requested at a children's hospital. So there we have a heartwarming Christmas movie.
He's got to help these orphans, and it turns out he's Santa. So
Yeah.
he's a broke ass Santa. I think we just wrote the movie right there, guys.
There we go. We're done. We're going to edit all that out and go pitch this.
That's true.
Uh, so let's come back to the Invisible Man. Well, actually, tell our listeners more about yourself first. You got a lot going on.
If people know me, they know me from making internet funny videos. Hopefully they're funny. But I'm a comedian. That's mostly what I do is I travel around doing stand-up. BrentComedy.com if you want to find my upcoming tour dates or just more stuff about me. But I'm on all the social media stuff, making videos and jokes and stuff like that. And I'm also a big horror movie fan. So that's why you guys had me on, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. That and Don just loved you because he got a cameo from you once for his wife and it made his life complete.
Yes.
So there you go.
That beta male cuck of a wife you got. No, I'm just joking. But I did do a cameo, and that's what I call most people, some sort of beta male cuck or soy boys. So
I love it.
Look, I still can't get that here we are in 2021, right? After everything that's gone on. And I'll watch, your videos on Twitter or TikTok or you see, I think even sometimes like on YouTube, right? There'll still be someone who comments like, this is what's wrong with America. People like him just go on Google and think that they know everything. And I'm like, sir, do you not know what satire is? Do you not know what comedy is at all? It's like, oh, that guy doesn't have enough brain or enough sense to pour out his boot if there's piss in it. And like he's doing a comedy routine. You understand, like this is creative exercises in the field of comedy.
Yeah, it's all jokes. And sometimes I always think nobody's going to think this one's real. And then you get a comment of, I can't believe you got a puppet from COVID or whatever. He got a puppet on his arm from that vaccine.
It was magnetized.
Yeah.
Good God. No, that's honestly one of my favorite parts of your Twitter account. I love the comments. Most comments on Twitter I try to avoid, and I actively seek yours out because you get those people and then you get everyone who comes to make fun of those people. And man, that's a blast to read.
Yeah. And it's usually people saying, you're not smart. YOUR, like just dumb from the insult,
Hey, at least you get feedback. We don't get that here. So
well, ruffle some feathers, guys. Let's talk about how the Invisible Man was right. We'll do that.
Well, first off, he treats people really well.
That's
true.
true.
I mean, I think that this is a masterclass in how to treat people, much like how the Wolfman taught me how to date women. This is up there. So, in all seriousness, why did you choose The Invisible Man?
I watched all these Universal movies. I still haven't seen the Phantom of the Opera. I own all those. I just haven't seen that one yet, but I watched all of them, and this one was just my favorite. And I don't know why. Like, I noticed last night when I watched it to prep for this, like the monster is there from the beginning of the movie. Right. There's no, like, he doesn't go through like some kind of transformation. He's just there. But he's also just, I never realized how much of a dick the Invisible Man was. And also this movie is funny. I don't know if they're like intentional jokes, but it's very funny. And it just holds up. Great effects. And I don't know, it just, everybody likes the Wolfman of Frankenstein. I love all those guys, but the Invisible Man for me, something I just like this movie. And this is one of the few movies where I watched it once and immediately just started playing it again.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah.
That's always a very good gauge that something is extremely good.
Yeah. I don't know if this is extremely good, but I like it a lot. So,
I mean, we've watched a lot of these this month because we've been covering the Universal Monsters all of October. And I agree. I think this is the one that holds up the absolute best. Mm-hmm. And I can't wait to watch this one again. And Don knows I don't like rewatching stuff. And I'm already like, man, I need to watch this because I've been thinking about this part or whatever. And we'll get to all that. But I didn't have that with the others is what I'm saying. So, and
also good thing about all these movies, they're not a big time suck. No. these are about an hour to an hour and 30 minutes tops,
Mhm.
and usually closer to an hour. And that's, I don't know, in this world and day and age, I'm like, perfect.
Yeah, we've talked about that a few times. There's been movies like Host, which are, what was that one, Don? Like 50 minutes?
57 minutes. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
around that.
Yeah, and it fits so much better. And I think that horror can really, really shine in these shorter films. I think it's just like novellas. Like, you don't lose the tension. There's not a lot of filler. Like, stuff matters, and it makes you hold on to that feeling. And when stuff gets stretched out, you get bored, and then it's not as good.
It's weird. I think in the same year, or just a year after, we had Host, which was under an hour, and then we had The Irishman, which was
like
4 hours.
Yeah.
And again, I like that movie, but it was also like, I gotta pause this and go do something else for a little bit.
I haven't even started it because of the runtime. I just instantly went, that's not happening.
Yeah.
No.
So yeah.
But then again, I'll be like, I want to watch this whole series in 2 days.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, I've turned stuff off because it was 2 hours long. I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to watch, I'm just going to binge The Office right now. And then, I'm on to season 4, season 5 by the end of the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think that there's something to be said for that as well, because you're binging the show, but you're not that invested in every single second of every episode,
Right.
And so I think with shows, like we do the thing where between episodes we get up and do something else, or we ignore episodes we don't love as much, or wait for the right moments that we love, that kind of thing. And I feel like shows are really good for that, and that's a great thing. And then something like a horror film where it wants to devour my soul in that moment, the shorter the better.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to just sustain those extreme fears, or extreme feelings, and I guess fear is probably one of those, extreme feelings. I guess, dread, anxiety.
Yeah, definitely.
I would say, I think the people that are on top of it right now, it's the team behind Black Mirror, because they can give you, 40 something minute, they could give you an hour 10 hour 20-minute episode, but you're invested the entire time. Same thing with the resurgence of Creepshow on Shudder. You may get some longer episodes, you may get some episodes that are 2 to 3 different stories, but it keeps you engaged to where, if you have a movie of a certain length, or even a horror movie of a certain length, there's going to be that moment where you're no longer invested in the story, or not invested in the story enough to care by the time it's over. I saw Halloween Kills. I can't remember, it was an hour and a half or 2 hours, but they were able to work with the time and the action to drive, I wouldn't say the anxiety, but at least drive your attention towards what may be happening. And I think that some teams have it figured out well, to where they use that 50 minutes, an hour and 10, like had been done during this period. And others who have those longer films, because those longer stories need to be told, just need to figure out where to find that balance of making something still enjoyable for your audience.
So let's jump into the actual episode here. And I don't know if everyone listening to this has watched it, but I'm really fascinated that I didn't even notice something you just said, Brent. And that's that we just start off with the monster. The transformation happened before all this. And I don't know, that's really fascinating how each of these is different in that regard. Dracula was already a monster, but we still get to see that human side first. We never get that with this. We know, well, not that he's human, but you know what I mean? We get the fake human side with Dracula, and with Frankenstein, we get that quest to be human. And in this, it's all just, I'm a fucking monster and I want to make it worse.
And it might be like this. I don't know. Maybe this is the reason why I like it, but I'm a little fed up with origin stories in movie. I don't need to know how Spider-Man happened, because we all know, and we've been told 4 times already. And again, this movie is from the 30s, but they didn't even have that in mind, I don't think. But from the jump, he's already invisible. It's in the title, The Invisible Man. There's no secret of what's going to happen in this movie, you know? So
Definitely.
and it's a great look for the creature, you know, the invisible guy when you could see him, you know. But yeah, just from the jump, he's the Invisible Man.
And then I love how people react to him. You know, like he comes in with such a demeanor of I'm going to do what I want and you're going to make it happen. You know, he demands a room. She's like, "Oh, we don't have any ready." And he's like, "Well, how hard is that? Just do it." Then he's demanding to be left alone. And he's just always angry and always trying to control everybody. Like there's no good side to this dude. And I really appreciated that with this film.
Yeah. You don't get the chance to sympathize with him at all, you know, as far as, you know, this was an accident, or you know, even seeing an accident happen to him, or see him intentionally inject himself. And I think that makes it a whole lot easier for you to dislike him the entire film. You don't care about him getting back together with his woman, or even care about him potentially turning back. Even when he dies, I mean, it's that short little deathbed moment that he has with his partner. And even then you're kind of like, good, I'm glad you're dead. Like you drove a fucking train off of the tracks and killed people.
Man, what a great scene that is.
That was awesome.
So, I love that scene.
It made me want a model train. You know, I haven't had one in a long time. It definitely made me maybe reminisce a little bit.
I would just picture you like Gomez with your cigar watching it blow up. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, Don, that's a good point. You feel no remorse when this dude dies. Like with Frankenstein or, you know, the Wolfman, you're like, you know, these were just circumstances that were out of their control that just happened to them. Right. This guy did it and he's a dick, you know?
Definitely. I also really love that they got one of the biggest actors at the time and paid him to barely ever be on screen. Like, that's fantastic.
It's like Vin Diesel voices Groot.
Yeah.
Like, just say this one word over and over again.
But yeah, I find that fascinating. So what is it that you love about this, Brent, other than just it holds up?
I mean, it's again, the creature look is good. This is like one of the only villains who I think wears a robe for most of the movie, like what I think is a robe or some kind of smoking jacket. Mm-hmm. The look looks really cool, and just the overall reaction to the townspeople. Like you got the bar lady who's married to the bar owner, and she's hysterical. She's at a 10 most times. What? Falling down the steps and just so funny, over the top. Not even over the top acting. Maybe she is, but it's just her reactions are so funny to him. And he's such a dick where he's like, you know, again, get me the room. How hard is it? And he's like, and you'll bring me some food. There's no please or thank you with this dude. Just it's you don't get a movie very often where the main character is just so unlikable.
Well, and then she tries to bring up the mustard, you know, after she was supposed to leave. And
yeah.
And I wish that he would have been like, I hate mustard. Like that would have just made it even better to me. But, you know, so she sort of sees that he's a monster and freaks out. And I like that. I like the reveal being that way because you get the one person's reaction and then no one believes her. And then when they all experience it, the cop doesn't believe them, you know, and the way that's so today's world still. I love that.
Yeah. It's seeing is believing. And again, this is the Invisible Man. So you're not going to see him, you know?
So we'll never believe. No,
no, sir. And it also just occurred to me watching this movie, like every time he's invisible, he's just naked.
Right.
Yeah. Just
yeah.
Bare ass on the car seat, bare, you know, just so funny to me that, you know, he's invisible, but you're also like, my friend's naked in that chair right now.
Well, and it's interesting. Like he's very cocky in the fact that doesn't intimidate him in the slightest bit. Like even if you know they can't see you, I would assume there would still be that part of you that's like, but what if they can? You know, and
right.
And he doesn't have that at all. This dude's like, you know, swinging a hammer or something because he's just fine with all of it. So,
And the great, it makes him invisible, but you get the reveal of whatever flower, the monocaine chemical makes you go crazy, and you see that over the course of the movie. It's there from the jump, but it gets worse. This guy's just ego, and he's power hungry. He's irritable. For some reason I think has super strength too. I don't know about that, but he seems to be strong. Just the transformation over the short amount of time that you get, like it seems like he gets worse throughout the movie.
Definitely. Don, what do you love about this film that we haven't covered?
Well, to piggyback off of what Brent was saying, but yeah, I hadn't considered it with previous films, whether it's Memoirs of an Invisible Man with Chevy Chase or Hollow Man or any of these other ones that were out there. You considered as far as I'm what's invisible, so I'm going to have to be naked when I'm out there, right? But you never thought about it in the sense of the discomfort that would come along with it. You think of it as like, I'm not going to get caught. I'm going to be naked. They can't see me. Haha, great. I started thinking about weather, especially when the Invisible Man starts giving his speech about what he can and can't do, or at least what would expose him and what wouldn't. You don't think about all those environmental issues or of environmental aspects, like the rain or the smoke in the town or the dirt. I mean, if you could be an invisible man in Arizona for about 5 minutes outside. And
yeah.
And just think about what would be a suitable place for an invisible man to live, because even if it's not just the discomfort of your body, or at least on your, as far as exposing your body, you're still going to have to walk around with no shoes. And unless you have some hobbit feet, I think you're going to have some trouble, walking from street to street or house to house or sneaking through places, because you don't have all that extra security, as you're moving around.
That's pretty great.
That thing where he's like, I can't, be seen an hour after eating. And even now I'm thinking, like, would that even work? Like if you put something in your body, if you swallow aspirin, could you see that in his body? That's the only question. I'm like, I just feel like that would be invisible if it's in his body.
Mm-hmm.
I do too. Yeah.
The other stuff of like, you just see like half-eaten chicken in this dude's stomach, and you're like, what is that? First off, but that's gross. Just the dirt on his feet, that stuff that you wouldn't even think of unless you were invisible, like the stuff, the fog or the mist, or even one guy in the movie is like, you got to go throw ink on him or whatever. That type of thing is, you don't, he's invisible, but how long is he invisible for?
Right.
I couldn't do it. I'd have like hot wings sauce on my chest, so you'd see that. And then like all around my mouth and my fingers. I mean, you'd pick me out instantly.
Yeah, that floating buffalo sauce over there. I bet that's him.
Well, this is a question I had, and both of you brought this up with respect to the mentality or the mental state of this guy, where it may have started as far as normal or quote unquote normal, to it gets progressively more and more destructive. And when I was looking at this film, it made me think of a couple other ones. But do you think, despite the warnings about the flower that was used as part of the formula, do you think having these powers of invisibility would make you possibly act in a different way than you typically wouldn't? Or would it just expose what's already there?
Like when they're like, when you're drunk, that just heightens whatever your personality is,
But now you have anonymity to go along with it. So would that have that impact on you as far as changing your behavior? Or is it, again, is it going to be something that just reveals who you actually are?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if his character would have been this anyway, because he's obviously somewhat likable if Laura likes him,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I would be that way, because I like to think I'm somewhat of a polite type of person, but maybe if I was invisible and could take over the world if I wanted to, I'd be like, yeah, you're going to bring me some food and no mustard.
That's right. Don't be coming back with the mustard. I'm going to argue that I think that it would make you more cocky and make you like you're automatically special, right? And that always brings out more of that. And that once you're starting to get used to things happening when you expect it, like I would think that you would push that further. And then I look at like the anonymity of the internet, and I feel like it does bring out what's already there, but I think that it's also a combination of, well, I got away with that, I can up it. Like whether it's purposeful or it's just growing as you go. So I think my answer to you is both.
Okay.
And it also, did you guys, when you were watching this movie, where you're like, what would I do if I was invisible? That's always kind of like when you're like, people are like, if you got superpowers, what would you do? Invisibility is always in that top 5 choices, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm like, I would be robbing banks and like, but I would be quiet about it. The problem with him is he's letting everybody know there's an invisible man.
Right.
He could have achieved anything he ever wanted if he just kept his mouth shut.
That's true. I do love how he robs a bank and no one notices. That's pretty great.
Like you don't notice the floating till.
I love that. I thought that was so funny that it didn't even matter that he was invisible. But yeah, no, I agree with that. I think I'd be doing a lot of weird stuff. Like I would totally screw with people, and maybe it would be my friends, maybe it would be people that hurt me, whatever. But like, can you imagine being able to be invisible and go to like somebody who's always treated you badly, like just start screwing with their stuff in their house and they think there's a ghost,
right?
Like just like you could drive people crazy that way. And I look at like the new Invisible Man movie, the latest one that came out in 2020, and I didn't realize how much that had in common with the plot of this. Like to me, it felt like a very different thing. And then as I was rewatching it, I was like, this is just an asshole with too much power using it to harm somebody that he doesn't like. And that's the exact same premise.
Right.
And that was fascinating in itself to me. But to bring that back, like, I feel like I'm a vindictive little dick. So I think that's the kind of stuff I would do.
Don't cross James is what I'm hearing.
That's right.
Taking a flight all the way to where I live to mess with me.
And he's going to you didn't like, tell me about the ghost pepper wings in town.
That's right. You'd be like, there's a good pub over here with good food. Go away.
Go.
And then I'd be defeated. Damn it.
One of my favorite, besides the lady in this movie, is the cop who back to back delivers that. What's all this? Like,
yeah,
couldn't be the more stereotypical English cop. What's all this in? What's going on? Like, just so funny. And I don't think it's supposed to be funny, but it's funny to me.
An invisible man in the town, ain't it?
Ain't it? Like, just, what's all this? Like, just so funny to me. And then
even the way he accuses them all of being drunk, like it's just so on point and yet hilarious by today's standards.
And something I thought was crazy, and I forgot about this movie. He kills a cop. It's not that graphic. He smashes him with a stool or whatever, but he's killing somebody just by bashing him in the head. And they were just showing that back then.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me.
That's why we got a code after that. No. Now that is a good point though. Like I hadn't thought about how it's not that graphic, but like at the time that really might have been like, I don't know. I'm not a historian by any means, but like that might have been enough to upset people. And oh my God, I've never seen this before.
Well, 33, not necessarily, because you had other movies that were doing stuff like that.
All right, cool.
And even it was more of an issue. I mean, if you definitely were brutalizing a cop, it was, but it wasn't going to have the same play as earlier in the century, where the cops were always good. And, you never had to worry about things like the LAPD or NYPD, Chicago PD, or any other PD not doing what they're supposed to be doing. But yeah, Brent, you brought up a great thing, a great point about, the superpowers and invisibility is one that's in the top 5, at least for a lot of the ones I've seen as well. And in some cases, when I see the man on the street type survey or whatever, they'll get the choice. Would you rather be invisible or would you rather fly? And flying people, I think you can trust. If you have that option between those two, you're only going to get to fly or you're going to get invisibility. The person with invisibility may be a little bit more dangerous than the ones who want to fly, unless their goal is to fly up into space while carrying you and then dropping you from the upper atmosphere. And I say that only because a lot of people think about, with respect to getting invisibility, they think about what they would be able to do that by having that power that they're unable to do because of whatever groups in authority can stop them from doing it. Where, our character here, he says, he's like, I want to topple governments. I want to kill whoever I want to kill. In fact, he says, an invisible man can rule the world. He can rob and rape and kill. So it's not even an issue of, hey, here's some things I can do. He's already thinking about what he can get away with, and it all has to deal with what would be objectively immoral activity.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's got the power to not be bound by society's morals.
And he's so concerned with that stuff that even there's a part in the movie where he's like, oh, I forgot about my dear Flora. The girl you've been dating or whatever, you just forgot about her because you're so concerned with your struggle for power.
Right.
Sometimes that happens.
Taking over the world, it requires a full man's brain, not half brain. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, people try. But
so what would you guys rather, fly or be invisible?
Going off what Don just said, invisible.
What about you, Don?
I would say invisible, but not for the nefarious reason. I would think about stuff I could probably get away with. But there are a lot of times when I'm just like, I would not mind if I disappeared and people didn't see me. You get in those situations where you're kind of like, I want to be alone. I think that would probably be the greatest thing about being an invisible person is you can be, if you can choose to turn it on and off,
mm-hmm.
that you get to have privacy when you want it. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is, how peaceful privacy can be, even if you're in a group of people, to where you can immediately turn it off. They don't see you. They don't know if you're in the room. And you can have, your time to your own thoughts or do what you want to do because they're not going to bother you because they don't know you're there.
Mm-hmm. And that was a plot point in the movie. They several times are like, he could be in the room right now. We don't even know. And that gets even scarier in the remake, the 2020 remake. Yes. Of like, are you what scares you more, being alone or knowing you're not alone?
Yeah, definitely. Hey, Don, I have a serious question for you.
Mm-hmm.
How much, if at all, does race play into invisibility?
God damn it, James. I was going to try
to like with your choice, like really, like,
oh, you mean,
like,
for
is
me?
that a part of, your choice?
Well, I'm a guy who I've probably said this on this show before, and I'll say it again. I intentionally chose to come to the school where I am, one, to challenge, some of the things that are out there. And then also considering the school was integrated 59 years ago, and the town, blew up into riots because of it. I kind of kept that in the back of my mind of I've got to be here and I've got to be visible. So I texted James one time, and because James's big thing was like, I'm worried he's going to Mississippi. What's going to happen? He's going to die. This is going to happen.
Well,
to him.
Also you run your mouth a lot, like, so that was a good part of it.
Yeah. But the thing is, I do it so cleverly that most of the time people just walk away. Like the guy who, was pissing and moaning about not being able to tell a joke. He's like, you can't even tell a joke nowadays because if you do, it's got to be a non-gender, multiracial, non-religious, and he went on and on. I said, well, I don't think it's that people can't take a joke. I think it's that people don't know how to tell a joke. And then, he looked at me, mm-hmm. I looked at him, and we walked in different directions. But as I was telling James when he was checking, I said, oh, everything's going fine. I said, I'm making sure to make eye contact with every white woman when I say hello to her. Now, he didn't get it at the moment. It was an issue of, there was that long pressure of, if you're on the sidewalk, you can't look, I'm sorry, if you're into contact, you can't come into contact with a white woman on the sidewalk. You've got to get off. And the same thing for men. You would have to get off the street if they were approaching out of this fear or whatever. And then you can't look at a white woman in the eyes, because you're supposed to look down, according to what social standards were. You're supposed to look down, because if you look at her in the eyes, that is an arrestable and lynchable offense known as eye rape. Because if you're looking at her, you're trying to intimidate her with whatever your sexual mind powers are. Which, if I'd known I had that, I wouldn't have been so lonely in high school. So anyway,
Jesus.
So I would say a long way to answer your question. I think a good bit plays into it, and it becomes one of those things of, I don't want to have that quote unquote conversation today.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, no, I was just thinking, like, any race, like, race is so much a part of who we are, whether we admit it or not. And like, who, like, your identity is based in that. So, like, it'd be weird because you could become invisible, but you have these other pieces of you that are erased in a different way. And I don't know, that's really fascinating to me.
Well, Ralph Ellison has a work called Invisible Man, where he specifically, well, I'm sorry, not specifically, metaphorically, talks about, the elimination of identity for African American males, or the African American male character in the book, and getting into how your needs aren't met, you're not seen, your issues aren't seen. So I would say for a lot of people, especially the crowd that has had to respond to, I don't see color. That's how that statement makes someone feel who happens to be marginalized, who happens to be, whether it's race, sexual orientation, gender identity, or even religion. When somebody responds with the whole, I don't see you as whatever, I guess they're removing that person from the narrative, or removing them from the discussion, as opposed to seeing them and understanding the qualities that they have, as opposed to rendering them invisible.
Cool.
I do have a list of kills that we could talk about.
Oh my God.
Do it.
From the beginning, he runs out of that bar, and I don't know if this is the first one or one of the. No, this is not the first one, but he throws a bike at somebody. He smashes glasses all over the bar. Like, some of the stuff is like any drunk person would do, but if you just saw that happening from afar with nobody doing it, that's scary. We talked about him killing a cop. He derailed a whole train. And one of the reports, he's killed 20 men so far. He's throwing guys off cliffs that are looking for him. He promises to kill Kemp at 10 o'clock, which was his downfall. Again, another thing of ego.
Yep.
And then he runs him off a cliff in a fiery car crash. But my favorite is he knocked over a baby carriage.
I shouldn't have laughed when I saw that scene, but
it's hard not to.
It's just beautiful, because I would say 1933, that might be shocking. 2021, it's funny. Just because of everything else that's going on, and like Brent, you said, it seems as though he's gotten superpowers as well, because even when he's attacking that one group with the bike, they're fighting him back with, by trying to push against the bike.
Mm-hmm.
But
then again, he's like, let me go out of my way to knock this baby up. Let me teach this baby a lesson. This cocky baby.
You shouldn't have been there, baby.
Life's hard, kid.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
and
but
that's what they do. They make him so unlikable that even in his vulnerable moments, you're just like, yeah, die. No one cares.
Yeah. And the first time I saw this movie, he's not even the train derailment. That's one thing. That's a bunch of people you had no connection with in this movie. But then to push Kemp in the car just over, I was like, God damn, this is a fiery car. You just killed this guy in a movie from 1933. Like, you've gotten to know this guy, and that's his supposed friend and his confidant that he went to, then betrayed. So he's like, you know what? I'm going to tie you up and push this car off a cliff. Just he's just an asshole, but he's also funny at the same time.
I love it.
And just running around in a pair of ghost pants.
Well, he does have shoes that you can't see, because in the snow at the end, he leaves shoe prints instead of footprints.
I was watching the extras with the DVD that I have, and they said they dropped like these pieces of wood from high above. I don't know how they did that, but to make the footprints in the snow, like white footprints made of wood that were already covered in fake snow. So they dropped it to make it look like footprints. I thought it was a great effect.
Huh, yeah. I guess I didn't realize how they had done it. I'm fascinated that they did all this, practically at the time, because, today they have much easier ways to do it. But like,
in my head, I could do that sitting in this chair, those effects now with the green screen,
Right.
But I apparently what they said on the DVD extra thing is that they shot it in with layers. So there's a scene where he unwraps himself in front of the mirror, and James Whale, the director, was saying that was the hardest one to do because he had to shoot the room, he had to shoot the Invisible Man taking off his stuff, but he also had to shoot the mirror, the Invisible Man in the mirror, but then also the room in the mirror. So that's 4 different shots you had to shoot to get those effects correctly.
Wow.
See, and James Whale also director Frankenstein, The Bride of Frankenstein too.
But that's kind of the proof right there that it's not perfect by any means, but the practical effects hold up way better. Mm-hmm. And when you watch this, they're really good for the time. They're absolutely fantastic. And I don't know, this just makes me love practical effects even more.
Well, in even some parts, I was looking for the strings. The till is floating through the bank, or the curtains open and the window open. I don't know how they did that.
Yeah, there's so much of that. There's so many places that I was just expecting that kind of stuff. And I mean, for the time, I wouldn't expect them to be able to edit all of it out. And it's flawless. It looks so good.
And those DVD extras, they also did say they compared the novel, The Invisible Man, to the movie. And I guess in the novel, he's more politically motivated. It was not so much about power, but it was about class, classes of people. Okay.
That's interesting.
So I guess it was more of a noble type thing rather than just rape and pillage.
Well, I kind of like the rape and pillage. I think that's pretty great.
Can you imagine this guy achieved invisibility, and the biggest thing he's like, I'm going to go rape and pillage. Like, that's what a biker does. That's what any goon in a movie Viking does,
I guess that was also
the floating Viking cap doing.
Is it Flavor Flav?
He's got a watch around his waist. Oh, anyway, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, go ahead.
I got nothing.
I also enjoyed all these Universal movies. I think for the most part end so abruptly. Whatever monster it is, the thing dies. Roll credits.
Oh yeah, there's no after story in these things.
The Wolfman's dead. The end.
Right.
Nobody learned anything apparently. Also, I do enjoy that a lot of these. Some lady, that's waiting to be married off just lives with her rich father. They all have rich fathers in these mansions.
Yep, every one of them. It's amazing. But I mean, in fairness, like, she had the diamond or whatever from Titanic, so she was doing fine.
In all fairness, though, I don't know how entertaining a story about peasants are. So
I'm just gonna go scratch that project I'm writing. Damn it!
What's Oldest then?
That's the name of my movie. What are you doing?
It's called What's Oldest?
Well,
What do you got in your notes over there, Don?
no, I was just thinking about how Mr. and Mrs. Hall were, they were fun characters to have. But yeah, I think even for the 1930s, because I've seen other films from the same period that in different genres where you have those characters that I guess are trying to sell you on how bad a villain or a monster might be in the film. But is there, I guess with this, is there a moment where, not saying that this character is sympathetic, but is there a moment where you could understand being sympathetic to his desire to cause chaos?
Maybe again, if it was more politically motivated, like if there was like a cause, like I'm going to fix the class system, but that was not even in the movie. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Well, what I mean as far as not the specific character in this film, but that type of mindset. Could you see yourself doing the same thing?
I think it's, I think we all say we wouldn't get drunk with power, but I think, once you're in it, you may not realize you're drunk with power or ego,
Mm-hmm.
And maybe there's something there of like, he was like, I'm trying to find a way back to be visible. Maybe somewhere in that character, he was realized that he was an asshole. Probably not, but
It's worth a shot. Yeah, I don't think that there's anything presented in this movie that would make me feel bad for him ever. I don't know. I don't even know if the reason for doing it would do it.
he's kind of like if Scrooge never had the three ghosts visit him. Like if he opened up the thing on Christmas Day and they're like, "What day is it?" And it's Christmas. He's like, "Oh, well, good." And then he's just back to being Scrooge.
Exactly. Yeah, he pushes over a baby carriage. The carriage breaks the kid's leg. Soon, poor Tim has to get some kind of crutch. I mean, I could see this happening.
And he might as well die and lower the surplus population.
Jeez. We've wandered to a dark place. But yeah.
Where do you guys think this ranks in the Universal monsters? Like, is this do you think he could be the most powerful and is also on your list of favorite? Where does he rank?
For me, I'm going to say it's a tie between this and Bride of Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
And because of the depth that they went into with Bride of Frankenstein, keeps it there for me. Whereas I could have definitely gone with a lot more screen time for The Bride. But yeah, this one, again, it's something like, I completely agree with you. It's something I can watch probably, I wouldn't say back to back, but if it came on television and if after I had already watched it, I could see myself sitting down to watch it again within the same week, and definitely within the same month, or at least introduce this film to other people who may be interested in some of the classics, as well as the Universal monsters themselves, and get something out of it. James?
All right. I'm going to start by saying that I don't know that he's the strongest, but I think he has the best quote unquote superpower. I think that it would allow him to do the most. I think Dracula's got a couple better things going on, but this guy has the ability to get around. And if he shuts his mouth ever, he could get away with anything. That's pretty huge. As far as favorites, this is probably second to Bride of Frankenstein for me as well. It's definitely, I love how the action just kicks off, like we're just there instantly. And I think the storytelling in this one is really tight, and the others, not always, but overall it does not compare to Son of Invisible Man in the Amazon Women on the Moon. Ed Begley Jr. owns that award. So
I will say that I like this movie, but I did miss a mad scientist saying experiment. I have to conduct my experiments.
There you go.
So something about old timey days where you have to say it that way.
They definitely knew their dialogue in this.
And I was also great. What's his face? The Invisible Man. I can't think of his real name. Who played him?
Oh, Claude Rains.
Yeah, Claude Rains, of just like, this guy was essentially a voice actor, like you just he had to make you believe without actually seeing, you took away most of his tools.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a great performance. And just his maniacal laugh and stuff. So it was very Joker-ish, and I enjoy that.
Yeah, and it's a really strong performance as well. Like he could have easily phoned this in at the time, and no, he went full force, and it's great.
All right, Brent, like we do, or at least we've added since last time you were on. We have, I guess, closing moments where we discuss the films, or at least mention the films that would be in the same vein as this one. So if you were to recommend somebody watch something after watching this film, what films would they be?
Yeah, I would say definitely the 2020. I don't know if it was a remake or reboot or whatever it is. I think it really builds upon the ideas that were in this movie, and the effects are so good, and it tells the story in a slightly different way, but it's still enjoyable. I would say it's probably one of the better movies of 2020
Yeah.
as far as horror and maybe just movies in general. Other than that, it's been like a long time since I've seen Hollow Man, maybe that movie.
Yes, definitely.
Nice.
And then even some of the Harry Potters where there's elements of invisibility there too.
Nice.
Okay.
I'll go next because Don's going to have at least 35 choices. So I was definitely going to go with 2020. I mean, that's just such a strong movie overall. I think Invisible Man that year just rocked it. That was one of my favorite films of the year. And it was amazing the conversations I saw start because of it. We did an episode on it. Go back and check it out. Outside of that, I definitely want to throw in like Monster Squad and just any of the Universal monster stuff. And I mentioned Amazon Women on the Moon. I love this film. See that as well.
Well, James, you took most of my list, so
yes, I've done it.
So you said you were going to do two movies, and I would say, The Mummy, Dracula, Wolfman, Phantom of the Opera, Jekyll and Hyde. The Thing I would also include as far as this, not knowing where the monster, the creature is, or who you can trust and who you can't. King Kong. And since Brent already mentioned The Invisible Man from 2020, and Hollow Man, which I think really gets into that whole what would you do if you had those powers mindset, where this guy descends into a monster, unlike what we see in this film, where he starts off as the monster. I would include a film that didn't do so well, but their execution of it, as far as the special effects and everything, were very remarkable, especially for the time period. And that's Chevy Chase's Memoirs of an Invisible Man, where it gets into that whole struggle of not being seen before invisibility, then the struggle of wanting to be seen, wanting to be noticed, and stuck in that world.
Cool.
Also, did you have any more, Don? Because
No. That's it for me.
When you were speaking, just the character of the Invisible Man and the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen graphic novels. I can't speak for the movie because it's been so long since I've actually seen that. And then the character of Clayface and Batman the Animated Series. Any of those episodes where the guy's clearly losing his sanity, but yet stuck to this, chemical that makes him a big clay guy that can be anything he wants to be. I think it's a similar story arc.
Very cool. All right. So I guess that about wraps it up for this week. So let's bring it back to you, Brent. Tell everybody where they can find you online and whatever else you want to talk about.
Yeah, BrentComedy.com for all my tour dates and stuff like that. I'm on all social media stuff. Search my name. You guys were just on my podcast, The Field Trip with Brent Terhune. I also do another podcast called The Cafeteria, and that's with Ryan Niemiller. He got third on America's Got Talent. And Johnny LaQuasto, he was an announcer for WWE. So that one's more of a chat show. You get to know us every week, and that's out every Friday.
Very cool. All right. So I guess that wraps it up for this week. So as always, I am James Sabata.
And I'm Don Guillory.
And we will see you back here at the Necronama.com.